Hi, welcome to the Crafts channel. My name's Corinne Brad, and today I want to show you how to make this really effective cross-in-cross quilt design. I won't get it all out for you because I haven't got a big enough set here, but as you can see, you have got small crosses here, interlocked with larger crosses down here. And as usual, it's one of those quilt designs that's actually a lot easier to make than it looks. So I'm just going to fold that up and throw it on the floor, as I normally do. And we'll start by making the small crosses. So what you want is some strips of fabric, and they can be any length you desire. I've lost my glasses, there they are. And you want your, what do you want? You want your darker colour of fabric to be in the centre. So these pieces are 4 centimetres wide, and I'm simply going to stitch them together with a 5mm seam allowance. It doesn't matter about, what I am going to do is I'm going to put my needle back where it was. It doesn't matter about the length of these pieces of fabric. You can just cut your spare fabric into strips because we're going to cut it down after we've sewn it. So there's one, and if you just finger press your seam to the darker side, take your other light shade and stitch it down on the other side. So you've got your dark stripe in the middle. And again, finger press that seam to the darker side. Now your piece of fabric started out at 4 centimetres wide. What you need to do is you need to cut this into 4 centimetre slices. Rotary cutter is perfect for this. And if you don't have a gridded cutting mat and a rotary cutter, you can just have a 4 centimetre wide piece of card that you use as a ruler and mark the back of the fabric. There you go. So then with these pieces, what you're going to do is you're going to form like a Battenberg, because you're going to put another dark stripe down the centre like so. So we'll just line up one side. And then pop another slice on the other end. Other end, other side. So once you've done that, you can then just trim along the bottom, and you've got your square block, which is your small cross. Now you can do this any size that you like, but with a 4 centimetre wide strip, your block will end up being 10 centimetres by 10 centimetres. It should actually be about 10.5 if you stretch it out. So If we call it 10 centimetres, what you need to do to make your large crosses is you need to halve that measurement, which will make it 5 centimetres, and then you need to add in a 5mm seam allowance where you're going to join two pieces. So the next thing you need to do, when you have made several of these, is you need to cut some pieces of fabric that are 5.5 centimetres, I'll show you with this one actually, 5.5 centimetres this way, and you can make them any size you want that way, in all honesty, I think. I've cut these 7, but if you want a bigger large cross, then just cut them wider. As long as this measurement here is half of this plus a 5mm seam allowance, it will work. So we're just going to sew these together to make a block. That fits in the gap. Like so. I'll just sew the other ones while I think of it. And this, it's one of those quilts, it does take a little bit of planning. But, you know, if you've got a group of friends round, you can have someone cutting fabric, you can have someone making big crosses, someone making small crosses. It's an ideal project to do with a group of people. I mean, even if you have a little sewing club going, or you've got family that like to sew, you can allocate a different job to everybody. If you don't have anybody in your family or your friends that sew, you could pop yourself a break, book a break in a hotel, something like the Manor and Ashbury Hotel. They do lots of sewing and embroidery, jewellery making, this kind of thing, painting courses. So you can get together with people that are like-minded, teach yourself a new craft or learn some tips and tricks for an old craft. They've got some breaks coming up actually just before Christmas. So if you have a look at manorhousehotel.co.uk, you can see exactly what they offer and when you can go away and buy yourself an early Christmas present. Learn a craft, make Christmas presents while you're there, and enjoy the company of friends. So, going back to this, you need to create a strip from your small crosses, and these will be the outer sections of your large crosses. And as you can see, now these have been sewn together with a 5mm seam allowance, they fit perfectly against here. So we're just going to sew these end to end. I'm just going to double check I'm sewing these end to end. So you're alternating those bicolour rectangles. I'm going to call them Battenberg squares because you know what I mean. Oh no, noughts and crosses squares. Oh, that'll do. Last little piece. So that forms the row of your small squares, and these are the outers of the big squares. So let me just get rid of all these small square pieces at the minute. I don't know if I need them. I very carefully put together a whole batch of things that I needed and then forgot the order that I needed them in. What you now need to do, and I think it's that pack, is you need to make the centres of your larger squares. Now, whatever width you cut this in the first place, which in my case was 7 centimetres, you need to cut some squares that are also 7 centimetres. And they will form the middle of your large square. And then around the outside of them, in fact, let's put that down there. You need to put the other arms, as it were, of the large squares. And just have a repeating pattern like that. Because when you come to sew it together, you want to have as many long, straight, even seam lines as possible. So let me just do this. Again, 5mm seam allowance all the time. And because these rectangles were 5.5 centimetres to start with, they again will form a 10 centimetre square. Just bear with me, I've only got 3 more seams to go. Well, that's a lie actually, there's a few more seams after this, but 3 more seams in this strip. Like so. So you can match them up to these pieces here, which formed one arm of your cross. And all you need to do is, you don't need to worry about this seam here and this seam here, you just need to match up these corners here, which I will do now. And if you fold your seam allowances one to one side and one to the other, so you don't get quite as much bulk where you've got these intersections. I mean, the normal hard and fast rule is that you press the darker, the seam allowance to the darker side of the fabric so it's not seen through. But you can't always do that, not sensibly. And it's much easier, much nicer, I feel, to get a flat seam than to worry too much about whether you can see the other fabric. So you only really need to pin where those intersections are to make sure they stay in place. And then we'll sew straight down this line, again with a 5mm seam allowance. Now I'm saying 5mm, if you're watching this in the States, it is your normal 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. There you go. And then you just keep building up rows, more rows of your Battenbergs. I don't know if I haven't got enough Battenbergs here to show you what I mean, but here's one I made earlier. More rows of Battenbergs that just then form the other part of your... Now, how have I done that? I've got too many pieces of Battenberg here, that's the problem. Form the other part of your quilt. And then again, you'll have a strip. I've done this exactly the same as that one. I knew I'd picked up the wrong parcel of fabric, but never mind. Sew this to this. They say preparation is key, and it really is key. But sometimes when you sleep, you forget what it was that you prepared in the first place. But I will just sew this other end onto it. And the other thing I'll say as well, I mean, I've used just what, 6 different fabrics for this. There's nothing stopping you using up all those odd pieces of fabric that you've got. You know, as long as you've got enough to get 1 square and 4 rectangles out of, or, you know, a couple of strips out of. And you've got the room to lay it out on a flat surface so you can plan it properly. There you go. And there you've got it. You've got your small crosses here and your larger crosses here. And as I say, with the quilt that I showed you earlier, you can have those larger crosses as big as you like, as long as the length of the large cross arm is half the size of this square, plus 5mm for a seam allowance. There you go. I'm going to carry on making this with the other pieces of fabric that I've cut, and I think I might turn this one into a draining board mat, like a padded draining board mat. But you can make it on a much bigger scale and make it a quilt. It's quite a good design because you can just keep building on it and building on it as you go along. I hope you enjoyed that demonstration. I hope you will touch back again in with us very, very soon because we've got lots more videos coming up for you. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. If you've been inspired to create, please share your makes with us in the comments section below. And if you've enjoyed videos by the Crafts channel, hit the like button. Want to see more of us? Then click subscribe. See you next time.